Hey everyone, you're listening to Ankur Warikoo on Woice with Warikoo. On this podcast, I talk to you about entrepreneurship, how to grow in life, manage personal finances, handle failures, and a lot more things that just come to my mind. The episode begins. In this episode, I wanted to talk to you about something that you already know of, but make sure that I emphasize on it enough that you consider it in case you had forgotten about it. And the title gives it away. Your company matters. And when I say the company, it doesn't mean the company that you work for or the organization that you work for. I mean the group of people that you spend time with. And that has materially changed in its definition and its contours over the last several decades. But the essence remains the same. Your company matters. Let's start with why does it matter? It matters because we're all social animals. And the way that we look at the world is a culmination of the ideas that get stored in our minds around the world. So if you've been raised by parents who were working in government jobs, had a very stable life, had a very predictable income, liked that part of their life, then it's natural you were raised with the belief and the upbringing that looking for such jobs and having that stability in that life is important. And clearly, your parents, having done well for themselves, are great living examples of that. So it's natural for you to also experience it and believe that that is the real world. To the extent that you look at people who are entrepreneurs, you look at people who take risks, people who are adventure junkies, almost with a level of disdain, almost to the extent saying, oh my God, look at them wasting their life or taking this risk. And for what? Generally for what? Like why? What joy does this person get jumping off an airplane? What joy does this person get diving into waters and scuba diving and taking that risk? What joy does this person get by quitting their very comfortable job and trying to run their own startup? That is irresponsible. And you know what? You're right. It is irresponsible in your way of looking at things because you have been raised in a very different environment than what those people were. In the same way, when you begin to grow up, you have friends who are from very different walks of life, come from very different temperaments, very different experiences. That's the first time outside of our parents, we begin to see this mixture that we call the world. And it could confirm to whatever we have come to believe of the world or challenge every norm that we had come to believe was true. And that's what creates the rift. Very often what people call as generational gap is not really generational gap. It's just the conflict of what our parents have told us is true because that worked for them and rightfully so, understandably so, and what we are beginning to see of the world outside when we step away from the shadows of our parents. And then we start working. And that's a whole new world because now it's not so much about the people that we're working with, it's also the culture of the organization that we're working in. That brings in a layer of how we look at things, how we perceive our own selves, how we perceive our work, how we perceive the world around us. And that shapes up so meaningfully. And when you bring all of this together, you will realize that the people around us are the stories that we hear. And the stories that we hear become the stories that live inside our mind. And the stories that live inside our mind becomes the things we think of. And the things that we think of become the people that we get attracted to and we attract. And that circle continues to complete itself. The kind of people that you hang out with will define the stories that you will hear day in and day out. If you're hanging around with people who are constantly complaining, who are constantly bitching about their managers, their relationships, their life, it's quite natural that you will also grow up to be that entitled person who continues to complain, bitch, and moan about everything around the world. And in that whining self, you will begin to see that the world is the one who's the culprit. And you're the victim. You're the one that is subjected to all the hardships and all the outcomes of what the world has set up against you. And you will find yourself making statements like, oh my God, the world is designed for rich people. The world is designed for people who know each other. The world is designed for people who have connections. The world is designed for people who are powerful billionaires connected. And you will believe you're not one of them. And in the other spectrum are people who are hanging out with those who have ideas, who are not discussing people, who are not discussing even situations, instead discussing ideas. And when you spend time with those, you're just constantly thinking of ideas. You're not thinking of where you are, you're thinking of where you could be. You're not thinking of where you're stuck, you're thinking of how you can get out. You're not thinking of whether you're helpless or not. You're thinking of, oh my God, I'm sitting on an opportunity that I get to choose. And that just changes everything. And in today's world, there is an additional component, and a very important one at that. While we are spending time with people, we are more and more spending time with ideas, with content, with personas that we have no idea about, that we only know of, but we don't know. And these are people that we follow online. These are people whose content we consume. These are people whose content we follow. These are people whose ideas we are thrown by the algorithm that we control or not. And we are spending time with them. And we believe that they are not the company that I speak of when I say your company matters. But I'm here to tell you that that is very much a part of the company in the statement, your company matters. You are not just the average of the 5 people that you spend most time with. You're the average of the 5 ideas that you spend most time with. And most of these ideas, my friend, are consumed now online. They are not consumed in real life. They are not activated in the circle of people that you meet in person. They are triggered by your actions online. And you may not be even aware of it. The people that you follow online, the people that you listen to are going to shape up the stories that you hear. And the stories that you hear will make up the stories in your mind. And your stories in your mind will make up your actions. And your actions will then attract the people whose stories you get to hear. Your company matters. Don't take it lightly. All the best. Thank you for listening to this episode of Woice with Warikoo. To be notified of upcoming episodes, be sure to subscribe and follow the show on this app right now. Also, don't forget to rate and review the show because that just feels nice. Thank you.